Hi, I'm Jo.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is the new Start Inspiring podcast.
If you're someone who looks after an organisation and really cares about your people, productivity and performance, this podcast is for you.
You're going to get advice and valuable insight.
We're going to bring you tools and information that you can apply directly to your business.
So if you really value your people,
listen to the Start Inspiring podcast.
Your future self is going to thank you for it.
So welcome to the Start Inspiring podcast. We really wanted to use this as an opportunity to introduce ourselves and get to know you, the listeners. So I'm Kelly.
I'm Jo. We're going to start with asking Kelly about why did you start Inspiring?
So I've worked in HR, learning and development, for more years than I will probably admit to publicly on a podcast.
On a first podcast.
But I didn't start in that space. I started in the commercial space, and I spent a lot of time working my way up in a number of organisations, be that big corporates or small kind of tech businesses making their way. And I think just before the brilliant COVID experience, I decided to become a qualified coach. And I went along to learn how to be a coach, personally and professionally. And I had so much coaching myself. And through that process, I realised that I have such a love for helping people in organisations to thrive. And I know that sounds really, really corny, but I just genuinely believe that uniqueness of my commerciality and my genuine passion for people and their growth in service of organisational growth, that you can balance people, planet and profit and keep the whole ecosystem healthy and happy. And so it just so happened I worked in travel during the pandemic, and as a result of that spoke to my then CEO Matthew, great guy, and just said, you don't need a chief people officer anymore, certainly for this part of your growth. And I knew from the coaching I had this burning desire to go out and run my own organisation in the hope that we can positively impact the way of work. So our mission is to make work for everyone, and that's what we're here for, and I hope we can do as much of that as possible and leave a real positive legacy before my time here is done.
Oh, I love that. I've heard that story so many times, but every time you talk to me about it, it still gives me those goosebumps where you kind of, we've got so many similarities in our career journey. Also, kind of arrived at a very similar point. Coaching also changed the direction of my career, thanks to you, because we had dinner, go and do coaching conversations. So it's always so nice to hear when you're talking about the start of Start Inspiring, because you can actually feel how much it means to you.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's when you find your true purpose, your true reason to get out of bed, and are connected to that. And I have felt that purpose in all the organisations I've worked in, and actually even in the client organisations that we now work in, I can and want to continue to find that purpose and help them find that purpose in leading their organisation and their people. I think when it's authentic and real, I can't help but getting excited. And I can't help but work hard, because it doesn't feel
like work.
It does. I mean, I can't say it doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes it feels really hard. But the majority of the time, I feel highly energized, highly engaged, and I think finding like-minded individuals like yourself means that we can collectively do this together.
Yes. No, absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of followed your Start Inspiring journey with the awe that I probably always had when we worked together the first time, where I really looked up to you and thought you were just so good at what you did. And we kind of reconnected, didn't we, over COVID? So COVID is actually a really interesting point for us all, I'm sure, but for us we reconnected because we were both in different organisations facing very different challenges at that time, and I kind of reached out and we were going to do something amazing together.
And
we did, but just not right then. And so to then take a very similar journey to you and do my coaching qualification, and then for our conversation to continue into coming to work together is such a beautiful way that we've then reconnected. And I often describe us as a bit of a Venn diagram. We've got this amazing bit in the middle where we're so alike and have lots of very similar thoughts and, you know, ways of working, but actually also big differences where we are totally able to go, actually, I've seen it this way, and how can we co-create this together? As you can imagine, we get very excitable if left on our own for too long. And so it's best to keep us honed in, at least sometimes.
And actually, when you talk, I felt a little embarrassed there, because the reality is I learned so much from you and those discussions. And I genuinely think, you know, you get the best of both.
Yeah.
And actually, I think we learn from everybody, right? So
yeah, of course.
That continued desire to learn, to get better, to get curious about things. I think our clients get to benefit from that too, right?
Yeah.
You know, we never put the same kind of solution to drop it in to a client, because we're really cognizant of, you know, where do you fit? What's the context? What do you need? Where are you going? What does that look like? And so sometimes just having someone internally to bounce that off with, and then give the client the best of that diverse thinking is brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because one of my thoughts about coming to work kind of outside of an organisation for the first time in my career was I really like feeling part of something. Whereas actually what happens is I feel part of this, and I feel part of what the work I'm doing with this client and the work I'm doing with this client. And when I'm with them, I talk in the we sense. So what we're doing as an organisation, meaning the client's work, right? But also when we're together, we talk about we in a Start Inspiring sense. So
and I think that's really important, because we've always said, haven't we, and I think it's really important to us in the way that we work with our clients, we are growth partners. And partners is the really important thing. We are not consultants. We do not come in, read the time off your own watch and then give it back, as many people have said.
I love that analogy.
That's not how we work, because we've been in-house too. We've walked in their shoes. We've been part of the exec teams. And, you know, we go in as genuine partners to help them move their organisation forward, not to take the glory of it. Not, you know, that's not important to us.
No.
It's about genuinely helping people thrive, and therefore organisations thrive. Better people, better business.
So if you're enjoying this episode, we'd love to hear from you. So give us a like or share our podcast with others. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the episode. And it's so interesting, isn't it, how that penny is dropping around us so often, and people get those moments where they're like, oh, okay, so if I do more of this, I might get more of this over here. And our ability to be able to make that link between creating a better experience for people will lead to a better business.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, in terms of the way we work, so we have our core team, and we are all qualified coaches. So actually our approach is probably quite often baked in a coaching philosophy, both in terms of how we seek to understand an organisation's business and seek to understand what it is they want to do, but also help empower them to really do this with and then without us. So that's super important. So we've got 5 of us at the moment, core team, and we really collaborate to give the best to the organisation. But we've also got a brilliant group of associates that we work with. So from that customer's point of view, it's really easy to do business around anything that would be in your people agenda, because if we're not the experts, we absolutely know somebody that is. We have tried and tested them previously on your behalf, and we can bring them in at speed. So that whole employee life cycle, that end to end, whether you're looking at compensation and benefits, whether you're looking at well-being, whether you're looking at org design, leadership development, HR policies and procedures, any of those things, either we can bring it to you fast, or we know somebody else that can. So that's really easy for a founder who actually doesn't want necessarily, so whilst he or she knows people is super important to them, or a HR team who are already present and know people are really important but perhaps have some capacity issues, or actually there is just a specialism genuinely needed, they've got one phone number, one email, one contact, and they can come out and they know that the quality of that service is going to be phenomenal. Might I say so myself?
Quite right too. Yeah, I think we are absolutely in that world where we're able to sort of demonstrate that this really works. So you hear, don't you, quite a lot now about fractional CPO or fractional HR director work. And that's become much more prevalent probably in the last 5 years or so. But actually you can really see where the value, especially in the startup scale-up space, where actually it doesn't make sense for them to have, you know, a very expensive CPO on the books, right? Because one, they're just not in the space where they'd need that. Two, it's probably an affordability challenge at this point in their growth. And it's a real joy, that space, isn't it? A real joy where they're still kind of, maybe they've just had investment and they're really trying to work out what's the best steps to take, and to actually join an exec team at that stage. I mean, it really can make an enormous difference to the future of the organisation, can't it? So
absolutely. And I guess if you think about who buys our service, quite often it's the investor themselves bringing us in. So they know, and they've tested us a number of times now. So they know that we know how to help organisations create value and increase the value of that multiple at the next exit, the next round. And so, you know, sometimes we're brought in by the investors themselves. Sometimes we're brought in by the CEO, founder and exec team, and they know that they've got the organisation so far. They should be really proud of what they've achieved, but they want to level up. And they want us to come and help level it up. And then other times we work with much larger organisations where there is already a HR director, a chief people officer, head of people, and they are doing a brilliant job in their organisation, but perhaps they want something that will help them bring their leadership team's capability to the forefront, or actually they're finding as they scale there's perhaps a bit more conflict because there are more differences being introduced into the organisation, and with our coaching capability we can help connect them, we can help them to learn to have that really healthy debate and conflict in service of high performance effectively.
Yeah, that's so nice. I mean, there's so many different scenarios playing out, aren't there? And I think that's why it's such an interesting role to do. You know, if I reflect on my own role, it's just so fascinating and different, and every day throws a different challenge. And we're let's roll our sleeves up. Everything's workoutable. We'll always try and find a solution. And the benefit and joy of being able to bounce off each other as a team, and or, you know, our wider associate network to find a great solution. And I think as well, that space where we never settled for it being, okay, well that worked with a previous client, we'll just kind of roll that out again, right? It always is unique to that new client because their situation is always completely unique.
But I guess the other thing that why it works is they get to pay one amount of money, but they get the richness of our combined experience. And so whilst it's likely to be very bespoke, while it's likely to be specific for them, the speed at which we can execute that is much faster. We know is much faster than in-house. We don't get distracted by the politics. We don't get distracted by some of the day stuff. I don't sort out sandwiches and fridges and whatever else that might happen in a startup, which is, you know, a scale up. That's normal. We really focus on the stuff that is going to contribute the greatest value to the organisation, increase performance exponentially. And because of that, that's why it's worth inviting us in.
Sounds like we started to explore a bit about how we could help, you know, a whole range of organisations. So I guess part of our intro today needs to be about how to get in touch. Be really good to hear from people if you're interested in getting in touch with us and maybe having a discovery call of some description. So you can either contact Kelly or I via LinkedIn or via our website at www.startinspiring.com.
And as we go through these podcasts, our absolute intention is to bring you, our community, real value through the conversations that we have, And we will be providing tools with each podcast. So whether that be a blog, whether that be an amazing book we've read, or maybe actually some tools that are going to help you do some of this work for yourselves, we'll make sure that we provide those in each case.
What do you like to do at the weekend?
Sleep. Well, Oliver goes trail biking, as you know, so
Yeah.
I'm normally the mum that's got wellies, what they call it, wellies and a waterproof on, and I'm observing the young girls and boys who are trail biking, and it's just a pleasure to kind of step out of the workspace and be at home with the family.
That's so nice. Do you
What
ever have a
about
go
you?
at the trail bikes?
Not a chance.
Oh, shame.
Come on,
Thought
tell them
that
what
could be-
you're up to.
I like to paddleboard. So this time of year is like great, and I live literally opposite the sea, so I'm able to look out in the morning and decide whether it's a good paddleboarding day or not.
Fair weather paddleboarding.
A little bit. I did go out on the sea last week, and it was too rough, certainly too rough to stand, but yeah, I kind of live between the sea and the canal, so I can switch. And I'm doing the 3 Peaks in September, so I'm doing a lot of walking at the moment, a lot of hill
really
walking.
impressive.
Yeah, so also a little bit on the tired side, but it's energising too, that kind of being out in nature, and after a busy day at work, you know, putting your walking boots on and going for a walk. So Monday night this week, that's exactly what I did. So yeah, a lot of active, try to be active at least.
Yeah, nice. Thanks so much for listening to the Start Inspiring podcast. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jo, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.